these characters suck. Or do they? Well, maybe they do, but you still may want to build these characters up anyway. And in this video, we are talking about the most underrated characters in all of Marvel Strike Force, and I'm talking about that with Chewburger84, guys. So, oh yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. Let's go smash it!
ValleyFlyin.
Hey, what's up all you Valley Maniacs? ValleyFlyin here. I am back. I am joined with my brother from another mother from all the way across the world, Chewburger84. What is up, my friend?
Mate, not much. Thank you very much for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I love talking to you. I wish we were not so far apart time zone wise and we could do this more often, but it is what it is. I'm finally glad that we got together. And today, talking about the most underrated characters in the game. To determine who is underrated, we have to see where these characters are rated, and for that, I found the most recent tier list that I could find that is in infographic form, and that is Casino's 2.4 tier list. Yes, this is about a month old or so, and he's done subsequent tier lists since then, but this is the most recent one that I found that he's done an infographic for, so this is what we are using now. As you can see, this is for update 2.4. We are in 3.0 right now, so there's going to be a couple characters missing. The first is M'Baku, and if you are not farming M'Baku, I pity the fool that is not farming M'Baku. And there's another one. Oh yeah, you know who she is. It is the legendary Shuri. She is not on this list, but I don't think anybody would think that M'Baku or Shuri are bad characters, so probably not qualifying for this list anyway. So for this, they're God, Demigod, or Elite. They're probably rated pretty high already, not qualifying for this list. Who is going to qualify for this list? Anybody in the usable, mediocre, or trash categories. Now, Chew, there was a character that you did want to talk about, felt was underrated, but he is already rated in that Elite category with a +2 next to him, so not necessarily qualifying for this list, but I know you wanted to talk about him because he has a lot more value than people think.
Yeah, sure. So he is an elite. He's a little bit higher, and I think a lot of people do value him. But I was definitely one of the people that, looking at his kit, I simply just didn't think that he had that much juice, and that is Venom. So when I rolled 6 red stars on that bad boy, I really had no choice but to bring him up, because you'd be crazy not to.
Yeah.
And a lot of those interactions that he has that I didn't expect, like how valuable it is being able to strip buffs and then immediately reverse them and add bleeds to it. He has a really interesting mechanic that makes him unbelievably good 1v1. So not only does he have heal, not only does he give himself defense up when he's quite high health, but if you're up against, say, a Nebula who has an evade, what he does is he attacks with his primary, and then it's going to miss, but it's going to leave the bleed behind anyway. So you can literally just bleed her out because she hits like a wet noodle. So, I mean, his ultimate is spectacular, but that combination of his special and his ultimate is nothing short of awesome. I mean, nothing makes me happier than taking a Venom against a Guardians team because Drax goes after him. So you basically walk in with the Brotherhood and Venom.
Yeah.
You bleed them all out. Drax has still got blind on him, and you reapply blind for a second time to the entire team. So he is unbelievably good in a variety of teams.
But you also think he's very good in a one-on-one situation. I haven't ran across that. You think he's the best one-on-one character?
I don't know if necessarily he's the best.
Not the best,
but I definitely think that a lot of the weaknesses that things have versus 1v1s is if they have self-heals, which of course he does.
Yeah.
If he's higher health than the opposition, not only is he going to stay that way, but his defense up is going to mean that he's going to outlast another self-healer in most cases. But then, you know, if he gets to a point where he gets his special off, I mean, obviously that's 2 turns. If you've T4'd it like I have, where they're just going to bleed to death. Like, if they're still alive in 2 turns, I'd be very surprised. But he can also heal block them. So if there is indeed a self-healing mechanic, he can block that as well. And that really undoes a lot of 1v1 strong characters like your Wolverines, your Nebulas. The only thing that really can undo him sometimes is the super dodgy characters like your Visions, if you just get incredibly unlucky, where that bleed seems to be intermittent.
Yeah, so this bleeds can be insane, so I think you've definitely made the case that Venom is not a character you should be sleeping on. but he's already rated a little high, so I think it's time now to get into these characters that are not rated as high, that many people think they absolutely suck, and while they may not be great characters, I think you shouldn't be sleeping on these characters because they do have a little more value than a lot of people suspect. Before we get into this, I do want to remind you guys, Patreon, BlueStacks, there's links down below, and of course, check out the awesome Valley merch on a TeePublic store. All the links are in the description. All right, so let's get into this list. Quick disclaimer before we get into the characters that I thought here. I don't think they're like the best characters, so this is not who I think you should be building up right away. These are characters that if you have extra resources, you're already working on your meta teams, you can build these guys up in the background and they'll give you a little more bang for your buck than some of these other bad characters. So with that said, let's get into the list. First one comes from the usable category, and that is AntMan. I think a lot of people are sleeping on AntMan just because not a lot of damage, pretty squishy, and I think a lot of people had these high expectations when he first came out, kind of undermet them, and I think a lot of people have been sleeping on AntMan ever since. What are your thoughts on AntMan for underrated characters?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had him as overrated when it first came out because his kit looked good, but there was a lot missing. You know, there's the wet noodle effect like Nebula, as in that's how he hits. But very recently with the Ant-Man Wasp event, I walked into 2 red star rolls. So I had 5 red stars for Ant-Man, 5 red stars for Wasp. So I thought, well, I gotta give these guys a shot. And I was generally impressed with his kit. So, you know, you forget those little things like, for example, that 2-turn ability block. It can't actually be dodged or blocked. Which in a lot of cases makes a huge difference if you can guarantee that's gonna land. And we can see that with tanks or, you know, even things like Minerva, like shutting down a Minerva for 2 turns now, or let's say something like an Ultron. I mean, shutting down an Ultron very shortly as he becomes the meta is going to be stupidly important. And Ant-Man is a character that's going to be able to do that. So he's situational. I would have loved to have seen the cooldown on his Stomp AoE ability be significantly less because it's just an AoE slow. I mean, you're getting almost that anyway from Quake's basic.
Yeah, so there's like no damage on that move.
Yeah, I think I can give you this one as underrated though, because when he is paired with Wasp, I mean, those two can bat well above their weight in 2v2s, especially because of the steal mechanics. So, you know, he's going to go in, he's going to copy one of their buffs, he's going to take it away from them and then give it to the both of them. So that makes a huge difference, I believe. He's just so squishy. That's probably his main downfall. Squishy,
damage, and he definitely is that right team to surround him, especially because he's lacking in that damage. But I do think he's underrated. Not one of the worst characters, and a character I think you should build up if you're looking to build up some of your lower tier characters. All right, next one. You mentioned him when talking, or you mentioned her when talking about Venom. In a one-on-one situation, it is Nebula. And right now, Nebula is also in that usable category. And the reason I put her on here, you mentioned her wet noodle. She does not hit very hard, but you get her in a one-on-one situation, she's very tough. She's one of the tougher characters to face in a one-on-one situation. Her whole kit, she's getting speed up, counters, evades, and she could come back to life. Not a fun character if you only have one character left.
So, I think in almost every game mode, I don't know that I'll give you this one, with my point of view. However, one of the more popular defensive strategies in AW at the moment is instead of putting in 5 lower health characters, that you put like something with a, say, 30 to 40k health or a CP power on a node with just the shield minions. I think that a Nebula on that would be super irritating with how often that she would be able to dodge and counter and whatnot, but it's just that she can't do enough. Like, she's survivable, she's irritating because of it, but she just doesn't do enough damage to actually make that survival worthwhile. Like, there's very few redeeming characteristics about her. I mean, her speed is tremendous combined with those evades, but even if it took me, 5 or 6 RNG attempts to get around her evades, in most 1v1s, eventually I think you'd take her down, except for slower characters like Wolverine.
I'll give you 2-on-1 or anything else. 1-on-1, she is one of the characters I've lost enough blitz battles against her with that coming back to life, those evades, those counters are almost like just extra attacks that she gets, and the attacks they don't do a lot of damage, but she's getting those extra attacks. So very situational, and you got to get to that point in 1-on-1. But she is one of the characters I hate facing 1-on-1. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see just a small tweak to her damage as we come into endgame. Like, I know that she's not on the list of apparently leaked characters getting a boost, but I mean, she's one of the ones still alive after Infinity War. So I would have loved to have seen her get a little bit of love for her role in that movie. Whether they give her a Guardians tag, because technically she's walking around there right now. Yeah. That and the damage boost, I mean, her kit could be quite fine.
Yeah, and the writers of that movie did choose to keep her alive for some reason. I don't know what that reason is, but she is alive for some reason. So, definitely little thumbs up, thumbs down from each of us for Nebula here.
Yeah.
All right, next character, and I think we talked a little bit about her before. I think we agree on her. Scientist Supreme, very underrated. Most people think she is one of the worst name characters in the game. I think Bullseye gives her a strong run for her money. But again, very situational. She has that big screw you move, or screw everybody move, because she's going to screw up her team. She's going to screw up all the other team. Everybody screwed up with Scientist Supreme on the field, but very specific counter that you mentioned, and I think a lot of people are realizing with Scientist Supreme.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to test this out. Like, if resources weren't as tight as they are, this is one of the characters I've had my eye on for a very long time, that I think versus a Spider-Verse team or versus a Brotherhood team, where it's all about keeping those dots, those blocks, and everything up on there. This is a character that can really mess with the program. So that field trials where she has it turn 1, so I mean, on her first turn, she's going to be able to undo all the progress that they have had so far with Brotherhood. That is a phenomenal boost. The only downside is it is on a 5 energy cooldown. So, I mean, if you're not having her in a team surrounded by people that can get the job done, it's not really going to matter.
Yeah, you need to surround her with the right other characters as well. Big counters for Brotherhood and Spider-Verse, who are two of the better offensive teams. I think the Brotherhood's the top offensive team. I like Spider-Verse. I know you're not as high on Spider-Verse for offense. Yeah. But, big counter to that. Plus, she's got the revive. If you guys have faced her in the raids, oh my goodness. It seems like it says on paper 25% to revive. It feels like it's a lot higher, maybe like 75% when you're facing her in the raids. And I have tried a full out maxed out aim team back in August. So they were level 65, which was the max back then. And I just ran them through the raids, the full-on aim team, and a lot of it was because of Scientist Supreme. Now, sometimes the RNG is very bad. She could totally screw up your team, and then just kill everybody because the RNG is very bad, depending on what buff she places or debuff she places. But she's also screwing up the other team, and if their screw up is worse than your screw up, you're good. So. Well,
let me tell you one thing so, I mean, obviously at the moment, a lot of my behind-the-scenes theory crafting, and I've already spoken to you about this, is all about what am I going to do with Ultron when I get him? Like, what's the ultimate team that you're going to walk into Alliance War and just go, oh no. And to be honest,
NA Ultron.
I know. So Scientist Supreme is villain tech. So she picks up on a lot of the benefits that Ultron is dishing out. Like when they get a kill, the fact that you're going to, refresh the duration on all of the buffs on villain tech characters. With her ability to be able to throw up so many buff flips or everything like this on that team. I actually have this theory at the moment that a Scientist Supreme could be super irritating in a very defensive heavy, healing method Ultron team. Running 2 tanks, Thanos and Drax, let's say. Then you've got your Ultron and your Minerva. So there's already one resurrection in that team. Then you've got a passive resurrection, buff flips, everything like that on Scientist Supreme. The only downside is that her AI is moronic. Like, she just uses the abilities in the wrong place. But
just with those revives alone could be annoying. Even putting Nobu on that team to get like a whole super revive team would be crazy.
Could you imagine that though? Having to kill an Ultron like more than 3 times in a match, like that would just be stupid. But it's with her, it's a possibility. Is it a strong possibility? No, it's 1 in 4 in a perfect world.
On paper, it's 1 in 4, but in reality, I don't know what it is. It seems a lot higher.
Yeah, look, if we get to a stage where, they open the floodgates and, there's plenty of gold rolling around and I can get, this character up to 70, I promise you this is on my list of to-dos, which is Brotherhood testing was signed to Supreme, and also Ultron was signed to Supreme, because I think there's some lols to be had, for sure.
I think so as well, yeah, so definitely not the worst character in the game, maybe not the best, very high risk, very high reward for her.
Yep.
Yeah, the RNG could go really bad and she could be the reason that you lose. So that's why she's not one of the top characters, but definitely some good things that she does. All right, last character. You mentioned him as well. Wolverine. Now, most people think he's bad, and I think he's bad as well, but he does have some value. Anybody that has these heals, these passive heals, especially in Alliance War, is going to have some value, and his ultimate has never sucked. It's just the cooldowns and the thing. His ultimate is one of the strongest moves in the game. I don't know the numbers on that, but it seems like it, because he has some good damage, and it's a 700% piercing when you max that thing out. His basic sucks, his special sucks, which is why he's so down there, but his ultimate and his passive, I think, make him a beast to deal with, and he's also a very, very good candidate for that top one-on-one player. What are your thoughts on Wolverine being underrated?
Look, I want him to be significantly better than he is. I mean, that Wolverine is my favorite character in the Marvel Universe, period. Always has been. You know? But his kit, I honestly believe his kit is fine. His stats are what is broken on him. So, his kit, if you look at it all there, is absolutely fine. It's just that his speed is far too slow. And more importantly, his damage is so unbelievably low. And he should be bleeding every time he hits something with those adamantium claws. It doesn't make sense not to. I mean, even Reaper has a more reliable bleed application now since the Kree rework than this guy, and she's just got 1 spear. So, yeah, with this, it's always been a disappointing kit to me. So for me, I don't think he's underrated unless we're talking about red star scaling. Because when you actually put some damage on this guy, like if you can increase his stats by, the 75% with a 7 red star, that's when everything changes. Because again, his kit, for my mind, is fine. It's his stats that really let him down.
Yeah, that definitely very slow, and I think that's what cripples him a lot. But I've seen that ultimate dude kill characters that I'm not expecting to be killed. I'm like, oh, it's just Wolverine there. I'm like, whoa, what the heck was that? Where did that come from? So I think people are sleeping on his ultimate a little bit. But yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of his basic and his special. But yeah, definitely not a great character. Definitely needs some help, but I think the people are sleeping on him a little more than they should. So, again, if you're looking to build up some of your bad characters that you haven't really worked on, you got extra resources, I think Wolverine deserves a little bit of that, especially because he is one of the easier unlocks for Magneto.
True.
So
definitely true.
So those are the 4 characters that I think, at least based on this list, are a little underrated. We talked about Venom, but he is elite. Any characters that you see on this usable, mediocre, trash tiers that you think are a little underrated?
Oh, definitely. I mean, for me, you're about to see a video published on this actually tomorrow, because I've got a Kree raid team analysis where I basically use the 3 different variants of the Kree team to go through Gamma. Okay. And I think Ronan and Kree Noble are dramatically underrated. Both of those characters have the ability to obviously take off a lot of debuffs, but if you go through Kree Noble on paper, especially in a Kree team, I mean, she's a character who, on very, very low cooldowns, can remove debuffs on her turn, so that's free, guaranteed before you even do anything. On her basic, she's got the ability to give energy to other characters, And then on her special, she's then not only doing quite a bit of damage herself, but calling in another character, offensed up if they're Kree, to basically start punching the house down. So she's a very, very good character that you don't need to invest too much in, to be honest, to get a lot of her benefits. But if you T4 her passive, it's definitely one of the ones that I have not regretted in that team.
Wow, okay. So, I've been sleeping on Kree for a little bit. I've been working on so many other things.
I know that feeling very well. But look, you were talking about, like, so you'd put AntMan up, whereas I think he's probably okay where he is on that table.
Okay.
But the reasons that you like him, I think that you should also like Ronan. Because Ronan also does an ability block for 2 turns on the primary target. It's on the same cooldown that it is for AntMan. The difference is, however, that he also adds another heal block to 2 other characters on the same hit, and the AoE damage that he has on that is significantly higher than AntMan's AoE on his speed down ability. So I actually think that Ronan, if I had to pick between should AntMan or Ronan move up, even on individual teams without supporting characters like Wasp or other Kree, I think Ronan's better.
I think you're right as well. I think this +2 on this list kind of misled me, putting him in demigod, because I don't think you're gonna put him not in a Kree team. But yeah, Ronan definitely a much better character than he was just a few months ago. And
look, let me say this though. I think if you had a Ronan that was 5 red stars or above, let's say, I would still put him in a hybrid team against Brotherhood, because he's still going to be able to clear 2 debuffs off everyone.
Who would you surround him with to counter the Brotherhood?
So I think that you could definitely do a counter team. That anything that provides a cleanse to a shield team, for example, can be enough to sort of boost that. So I mean, I did one video yesterday which showed one example where I used JJ as the buff clear. You could also use Ronan for that same purpose. The benefit Ronan would have is that all of the Brotherhood would have had their turn, so he's able to take off more of the buffs. True. Admittedly, not as much as Jessica Jones would have. If you put both of those 2 together, so one could do theirs one turn, one can do it the other, and then he can go out and start ability blocking 3 of the Brotherhood team. I mean, that allows Shield, who would it be? It would be Shield Security, Nick Fury, and Medic to do their thing, and then slowly build the health back up over that team. So I think you could counter a lot of Brotherhood teams that are not just crazy red stars above you with that particular team.
Yeah, I agree. Your logic makes sense. So, all right, so yeah, there we go. I guess we're doing a top 6 list, because I do see your points on Noble and Ronan. Yeah, I've always used him in a Kree team, but I'm starting to see that value outside of that Kree team, especially with the points that you're mentioning now. Nice kit that he has, and I think that slow speed was specifically designed to counter the Brotherhood. I think because he was the slowest character in the game, or very close to it, they upped his speed, but not so much that it would not be able to counter Brotherhood. I think they made that speed like that on purpose. So there's the list. Let me know what you think of the list in the comments. Some we've agreed on, some we don't agree on. But let me know. Let me know what you guys have seen based on your experience in the game. Chewburger, thank you so much for joining me today. Anything else to add? Anything else to promote?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just shamelessly myself. So for those of you looking for me on YouTube, there's a slight name change. So myself and a couple other content creators from different games are getting together to create a podcast network as well as a video network. So we're working on a bunch of projects at the moment, from very generic interviews that we do with random professionals across the world. We have other ones where we're doing Dungeons and Dragons sort of podcasts. So we've got a lot coming together, which will be up and running in May. So when you go to YouTube, look for Alter Nerd Reality. So that's ALTERNERD Reality. And obviously the Strike Force Masters Launch podcast every week.
Yes, one of the. There's about 5 podcasts that I listen to every single week. Yours is one of them, obviously, because I like what you guys have to say. I think you guys are entertaining. And quick little trash talk before we go. Our alliances are both in the Sigma cluster, and we both switched to this. You guys are switching very soon to the same time zone as us, so we might be facing you. So Sigma Alpha. We're coming for you. Big Roy, Chewburger, I'm looking for you, and I hope you don't have Ultron by the time I face you, because that would be a pain.
Well, it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm not going to tell
not
you
for us.
beforehand.
That's not good for us.
It.
That's not good for us.
That sounds like remarkably like your problem. Is what it sounds like.
Well, hopefully we could overcome Ultron or face you before you get Ultron. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to test it out against you guys. I really can't.
All right, brother. Well, thank you again.
Cheers.
Check out Alter Nerd Reality. Links are down below, and make sure you check out his podcast as well. If you like this video, smash on that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the notification squad. Hulk fist bump. I will see you next time. ValleyFlyin out.